So now we're going to hear from NBA insider Brian Windhorst as he explains that the Lakers, in order for them to keep that standard that Dr. Buss had set, the overall NBA landscape has changed, and it's real expensive to do so. So he further elaborates on the structural changes that has led to this Lakers sale. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Like, if you ask me the question, why did the Lakers sell? I think it's actually very simple. I think it's complicated because it's family, because everything with family is complicated. But the Lakers sale, in my mind, is very simple. And there were two reasons why the Lakers sold. One, valuations went crazy, largely driven by the Celtics selling for $6 billion, and that Middle East money wants into the NBA. The Lakers were bought with Middle East money, and know that Mark Walter led, and he is the governor. I guess Jeanie's the governor, but he is the controlling owner. But that group, Mark Walter's group, took on $10 billion from Abu Dhabi shortly before. I mean, I don't work for the company, so I can't verify that 1 week the other, but they took on $10 billion from Abu Dhabi, and then 3 months later bought the Lakers for $10 billion. They actually bought it for $6 billion, but $10 billion valuation. The influx of that Middle Eastern money and the Lakers just lifted all the valuations. So, maybe they knew that they could sell the team for $10 billion, but maybe they didn't think they could do that till 2035. But all of a sudden, the Lakers are now worth a lot of money. And the second reason they sold is because local television in America is collapsing, and the Lakers have been untouched by it, but they will be touched by it. So almost every pro sports team in America has had to take a pay cut from their local TV deal, basically with the exception of the Lakers. Last year, for example, the New York Knicks made $141 million. And the same company that owns the Knicks local TV deal and that owns the Knicks is the same company. Mm-hmm. And the company went into bankruptcy, and they had to cut the Knicks by about $40 million. The Knicks are getting $40 million less this year than they did last year. The Knicks, or the parent company, owns both. The Lakers got about $200 million last year, and they're going to get the $200 million this year, okay? And the real differentiation between a team like the Lakers and the Grizzlies is that local TV money. The Grizzlies make $11 million a year. The Lakers make $200 million. They compete for the same conference. And now, if Jeanie was here, she would say, well, we have to share that money. We share the money with the players. Yes, you share the money with the partners. Yes, it's not dollar for dollar. But that is the Buffalo Bills and the LA Rams get the same check, okay? Because it's all shared. What differentiates the Lakers financially is that local TV deal. And the local TV, the company is for sale, okay? And so they are under threat. And so in Baxter's story, he said that the Buss family each got between $3 and $5 million a year. Like, that was their salary. Mm-hmm. And they don't have maybe they have other investments where they get, they don't have other jobs.
And that right there used to work in their father's time, but no longer works today. The other last NBA franchise that was sort of mom and pop, I believe, that sold was the Utah Jazz back in 2020. Once that pandemic hit, the Miller family cashed out. And that's when we really started to see a lot of the tech billionaires come in. And with the Lakers being the last mom and pop franchise, they were built a little bit better to weather the storm, but it was still crazy. That pandemic really hurt a lot of NBA owners. The league had borrowed over $800 million from one of their accredited partners back in 2020. And it makes sense. You had over 2 NBA seasons with fans not necessarily being in the stands. In the 2021 season, fans didn't really come back in until the springtime. I would say March of that season. I remember going to a game in Barclays Center, and that's when they were checking everybody's vaccination cards, and it was a whole mess. But the league definitely was hurting from basically not being able to sell out a full season in almost 2 years.
Jeanie's job is running the Lakers, and she gets a salary for being the president, but that's it. When a billionaire buys a team, if the team loses $50 million, fine, he's got his other businesses. It's the Lakers family business. So here we have the Knicks, who are comparable to the Lakers, taking a 33% pay cut. The Lakers were facing that. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but very soon. So they were facing a situation where their local TV, which differentiates the Lakers from everybody else, was under threat, and the valuations exploded. teams went from selling for, 2-3 billion to selling for 6 billion. They get 10 billion. That's why they sold. All the other stuff is palace intrigue. But at the heart of it, and by the way, I think the Lakers selling was the right decision for the Busses, and I think it's going to strengthen the organization. That's sort of the takeaway. The intrigue about the background is what makes it fascinating. But I do think that Jeanie, regardless of how you feel about her actions, I think she made the right decision for the family, and I think she probably made the right decision for the Lakers.
Facts. She definitely did. Laker fans, you can now step up because you watched in the past, I would say decade or so, the Golden State Warriors not only leapfrog you guys in relevance, but also their net worth has completely jumped over the Lakers. Once again, because of the Chase Center and that ecosystem that's around it, the Warriors are set up to make money whether Stephen Curry's there or not. And that's where Jeanie Buss and her family, from a structural standpoint, don't necessarily have the funds to sort of do the same. Owning the Lakers going forward and just trying to keep it within the family is going to have them looking like the Charlotte Hornets 10 years from now. Money-wise, it's just hard to compete. That's why all this private equity is coming in.
She specifically designed this deal, and very clearly she put the deal together because Mark Walter was her partner. This is one thing that wasn't in the story, but obviously if you know the Lakers, you know that as soon as AEG, which owns the building we're in right now, as soon as AEG got the Lakers to sign a new lease on Staples crypto, Philip Anschutz, who owns it, he immediately sold his 27% of the Lakers to Mark Walter and his group. As soon as he made sure that his arena was going to be filled because he was losing the Clippers and he owns the Kings, so he wasn't moving the Kings. As soon as he made sure that the Lakers were here, he sold.
Now that right there with Jeanie just re-signing the lease and having the Lakers in a building that they do not own, that is not the business model going forward for most of these NBA franchises. These new owners that are coming in are going to make sure that they own these arenas and the ecosystem around it. The business side of the game is changing so much that a lot of these teams are reconsidering even moving out to the greater areas of some of these cities in order to have an ecosystem and to take advantage of some of these areas, providing even better tax benefits. The Chicago White Sox are currently doing it as we speak. Once again, the Buss family is not necessarily in a position where they can make these type of complex real estate moves.
As soon as he made sure that his arena was going to be filled because he was losing the Clippers and he owns the Kings, so he wasn't moving the Kings. As soon as he made sure that the Lakers were here, he sold. And so for the last couple of years, Jeanie has had partnership with Mark Walter, and she's gotten to learn and get to know him. She liked him, so of course she negotiated the deal. And she negotiated the deal so that she would remain the governor. And I don't think that she would have negotiated the deal in a way that didn't keep her in the governor if she didn't intend to do it. The question is, who's making the big decisions? Is it going to be her on basketball decisions, or is it going to be Mark Walter? And that's yet to be, I think, determined.
And that right there is still a big question mark. You see the conundrum that JJ Redick and Luka is in, just being in that building. You don't know who's really calling the shots between Mark Walter, Rob Pelinka, Jeanie Buss, Kirk, Linda Rambis, Clutch Sports. There's way too many political fractions within that building in order for the Lakers to experience on-court success. But again, I got to give Jeanie Buss credit because she kind of organized the deal in a way that Mark Cuban was kind of alluding to the public that he still had control of the Mavericks when we all found out that that was not true. But the NBA also doubled down and said there was nothing in the paperwork that even said anything near close to that. So again, we got to give some props to her. And also with that innovation, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions that she's going to have to make. And really, at the end of the day, when you look at the article, it came down to her not only letting go a lot of the members of her families from certain positions within the organization, because now it is time for them to innovate. And you could tell a lot of these positions were kind of, of course, part of that mom and pop aura, that mom and pop atmosphere. Your family, okay, we're going to give you this position, because a lot of those job titles were basically eliminated. The whole scouting department that Jesse and Joey was running was let go. And the same thing sort of happened with Jeanie Buss. Matter of fact, his position was completely eliminated. So this kind of tells you the importance of their positions to begin with. And I've always alluded in the past that a lot of the nepotism hiring within the Lakers organization was holding the franchise back. Today's NBA teams are global entities that are run from a number of experts in different departments, whether it be scouting, the medical staff, etc. Even Jeanie Buss was let go and not even given the option of just resigning. So we understand Jeanie Buss kind of staying on board and making sure that she can clean up house in a more respectable way, because if it's up to new ownership, they would have probably sent these guys an email. Matter of fact, the way Jeanie let her siblings go, they still were offended. And now Windhorse is going to touch base on the LeBron-Jeanie relationship. And funny enough, in this article, it was revealed very subtly that not only Jeanie kind of wanted LeBron James to be traded, but also the fact that his arrival in LA was pre-planned as far as 2017. Let's not forget, Kyrie Irving was not only traded from the Cavs in August of 2017, but that I Promise school, in order for them to build that and have that ready by the time LeBron James made his little sweet exit with the bow tie. Okay, here's the I Promise school, guys. Don't be mad at me. I'm going to LA. You see the political moves by the best politician in the NBA, Mr. LeBron James. We see you, LeBron. You don't have to put on your revolutionary suit with your glasses. I don't know what kind of political look you're going for, but your politicking games are A1.
Well, I think LeBron intended to stay in Cleveland, and then the Kyrie Irving thing blew up. And that was in 2017. And LeBron decided before his last year that he was going to do one in Cleveland and done. And I could, give you a whole chapter and verse about all that went down. Just trust me. And I think he, in 2017 looked around and saw the Lakers and saw a great opportunity. And whether he decided he wanted to do that in August of 2017 or whenever, he obviously very clearly, because he made the decision on July 1st. His previous two times, he dragged his thing out to July 7th, 8th. He knew what he was doing. And the Lakers made trades at the trade deadline to open up the cap space. The Lakers knew what he was doing. When LeBron went back to Cleveland, they didn't have the cap space. George, this is one thing people don't remember. They not only did they not have the cap space, they had Gordon Hayward in their building, and they were about to give Gordon Hayward an offer sheet. And all of a sudden, Rich Paul had to say, hello, LeBron's a free agent. Did you guys notice that? And they're like, oh, really? I'm an enormous believer of actions over words, because people just lie or don't know or whatever. You can trace their actions. The Lakers made trades at the trade deadline in 2018 to make sure they had cap space for LeBron. So what does that tell you? Okay. And then again, let's look at the actions over the words. Why did LeBron get a no trade clause 2 years ago?
That's because business was good, Windhorse. LeBron James gave the Lakers a relevancy that they haven't had ever since their father passed away. And let's keep in mind, when LeBron James had made his way back to Cleveland in 2014, the net worth of Dan Gilbert had jumped up over $500 million. So you can only imagine how things played out with the Lakers out there in LA. Jeanie Buss giving LeBron James that no trade clause in the deal that he wanted, that's only icing on the cake compared to the position that she was put in order to sell that team for the quote-unquote reported amount of $10 billion. I'll put the link in the description below of a video that I did where an MLB executive who was responsible for selling a baseball team had actually explained how that $10 billion evaluation is actually a little bit overstated.
Why did he do that? Did he do it just for fun? Just to have it? Why did he get it? That's an action. Last year, the Lakers did not offer LeBron a contract extension. That's an action. So you can debate whether you believe sources and all this stuff, and there's gray areas or whatever. And, as with anything, like when it comes to the Russell Westbrook thing, I look at it as one thing that you see when you're in the NBA a while. George, you know this, you have these conversations. When a team makes a really good draft pick, there's a line of people. Oh, no. I saw him when he was 16. Oh, no. There was this workout in Santa Monica. There was only one person there. I called under the fence. Oh, no. I knew his cousin's uncle's brother's wife. And everybody, it puts it on their resume. Okay. But when it's a bad draft pick, no, that was Jim's. No, that was Tony's. Tony pounded the table. This is what happens with the Westbrook thing. The action, forget about that. Pay attention to the actions. The action, he got a no trade clause and they didn't extend it. That's all you need.
And within that article, it was stated that Jeanie Buss was kind of she was kind of flexing the fact that LeBron James didn't get that extension. She kind of felt good about it. They even floated the idea of trading James to the Clippers. It makes sense when you think about it, because this past season, when LeBron James was going on his little tour around these arenas, the practice facilities, he stopped by Steve Ballmer's facility down there in Inglewood. But again, LeBron James has put on a masterclass on controlling his narrative. And that's something that Jeanie Buss, at the same time, she's actually defending her father's standards of just what it meant to actually run a Laker franchise, or just what the Lakers overall mean in the NBA lexicon. We're talking over 6 years before LeBron had arrived and Jeanie took over, that they were kind of fighting the narratives of just, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Look, they're striking out in free agency with LaMarcus Aldridge, etc. And the rumblings around the LA media, which people don't talk about too much, they have very similar characteristics as the New York media. Luka's going to find that out soon. The LA media was kind of hinting that the Lakers were kind of being cheap behind the scenes. So all these things eventually now through this article have got out. And last but not least, we're going to hear from the man himself, Baxter Holmes, as this article on this Laker dynamic has been hitting the algorithms and causing up a stir. He spoke on the speculation of Jeanie Buss possibly doing a deal outside of her family when it comes to selling this team. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Of the Lakers, really, for some decades, but certainly in the post-Jerry Buss era, since he passed away in 2013. And the Lakers have been known as a family-run organization, so on and so forth. I've certainly had some people say to me, well, with the sale, there is going to be a transition, and the Lakers are going to be brought up to speed in the modern era, and some of the family drama and these issues are going to be a thing of the past, and whatever the Lakers look like in the future, this is certainly a team that's considered the crown jewel of the NBA and has all these advantages and a massive, massive audience and all these things. Once it's brought up to the modern era speed under Mark Walter, these things are just going to be a feature of the past, and they'll be kind of gone forever. So I've definitely had some people say that to me, that's what this will look like moving forward. But I do think it's important to kind of document how we got to this point. And that's what I tried to set out to do in this story. Well, first of all, I should say that the Lakers declined comment and multiple interview requests for Jeanie Buss and a host of others, including some of the people mentioned, who I was told receives the payments you mentioned. When I first heard about it, and certainly when I was talking to Jeanie and to Jeanie Buss about it, the underlying theme kind of leading into that was that they believe and said that it seemed to be that there were private discussions or even negotiations that happened between Jeanie Buss and Mark Walter. And there were questions so that some siblings had, I'm told, about whether a sibling could have private negotiations about a sale of the team and then present that as an offer. And the Mark Walters offer was presented as an offer, but certainly when some of these details came out and people understood that, as I reported, that like a Linda Rambis stood to make $24 million or a Kurt Rambis stood to make $8 million, those numbers I'm told are a nod to Kobe Bryant's jersey numbers. That, well, wait a minute, why are these people getting paid out? They're people that are close to you. Why are they these figures? It started to, in some ways, seem that this was not an offer and more of a negotiation. And there were questions of, well, does this violate the trust potentially? Are there, was this done behind closed doors and you're trying to present it as an offer? And so there were a lot more questions about that. And I'm told that Joey and Jesse considered for a time whether to take legal action, to have a judge potentially suss out, what's in the trust, was this done above board, so on and so forth. They didn't do that ultimately. As you mentioned, a majority of the Buss family agreed to sell the team. And it was a unanimous vote ultimately. And that's it. I think also it's probably daunting in some ways to go against Mark Walter in a long legal battle. But at the end of the day, the votes were the votes, and I'm told that Joey and Jesse understood that. But there's still some of those questions remaining, certainly about the payments. And I heard from others close to the team who those figures stuck out to them. I'll put it that way.
When it comes to the two youngest brothers, Jesse and Joey, The way the father wrote up the will, it kind of seems like the team will eventually belong to them, being the fact that they are the youngest siblings almost by 40 years. But some of the things that stuck out in the article was the almost audacity of any of the siblings to get fired even when they do a bad job. In 2017, when Jeanie Buss was fired, that seemed like it triggered a lot of the internal fighting within the family, because they were really appalled that another family member could actually fire one of the siblings. But at the end of the day, the league, the way it's structured now, guys would actually have to do a good job in their position. Long gone are the days where you could just hire someone just because. All these NBA teams are almost global brands now, and the penalties of failure are a lot higher. So throughout the article, there was not much acknowledgement from Joey and Jesse on just the whole infrastructure of the NBA switching up, and it wouldn't be feasible for things to just remain within the family. They would need major investment partners to come in and help them shift this Laker franchise into a more productive business that fits in today's landscape. But instead, we got a bunch of just keep it within the family talk, even though the Lakers are their primary business and they're competing with other NBA owners who have businesses outside of their franchises. Like I said, owning an NBA team today for these new class of billionaires coming in, it's really a real estate play.
Well, they're all rich in the end, but it's like rich, but it is a fractured family. Some of these things are really hard to kind of process. You know, the idea of, you mentioned Joey and Jesse wanting to carry on their father's legacy and lead the Lakers into the future, which was something that a number of people had told me, including people who were with Jeanie Buss in the final days of his life, that he had articulated.
Had he been alive today and seen where the business was headed, he more than likely would have made his kids aware that just structurally, they were not set up to compete on that kind of level. When you see what owners like Steve Ballmer is doing, just owning the land, owning the arena, and not even caring about just spending over $500 million in just a setup trying to get Kawhi Leonard paid, you can't really compete with that. Look at the Dumont family. They are very politically connected and they have a lot of money. Just the other day, Trump was thanking the matriarch of that family for giving him over $250 million, and Trump was asking her for another $250 in a joking manner. But you know, when you say a joke like that, there's a little bit truth to it.
It's all over. And look, I'm not in the position financially that any of them are, so I can't speak to it. But the sadness was definitely something a lot of people from all walks and around the league said to me was like just a takeaway of how this whole thing ended. I want to share something that Jeanie Buss, this is kind of from the cutting room floor. So Jeanie Buss had said to me, he said, like, being a part of the Lakers ownership was a roller coaster of ups and downs. And, he mentioned that at times when the family could get together, they could be laughing and it could be jovial. It had nothing to do with the Lakers. But when they would talk about the Lakers at times, and this is principally, for obviously a long time amongst the four older siblings, he said, but then when the conversation would turn to Lakers, it was like, all right, who had what role? Why did dad pick this person over this person or over me? How are they faring? Why did I not get this opportunity? Like he said, the Lakers were the tension point in the family. And he said, during those downs of the roller coaster, sometimes like another sibling might come to me and say, should we just get out? Like, this is miserable. Why don't we just sell and we can all like walk away from the team? He told me, and then he said, and then the roller coaster would be up again and things would be good. And like, oh, this is great. He said, but it was always like these extreme highs and lows. And he told me that he started to think, even back in the 90s, like, it would be just great if we could all get away from this thing. It was, the way he described it was almost, I know this will sound whatever, but it was like a toxic asset.
Now, Baxter Holmes right there just pointed out in the 90s, they felt that it was a toxic asset. Once again, Dr. Buss, after purchasing the team in 1979 and just experiencing all the highs of the 80s, just making the finals 9 times, all the success. By the time the early 90s came, they were going through major financial issues that even players on the roster were asking the owner if he was going to sell the team. That is tough. And this is in an era where most NBA teams were pretty much mom and pop franchises. So you can only imagine today where the Buss family is competing with tech billionaires and just politically connected real estate casino moguls. It's just crazy. The NBA is really headed in the same direction. I would say most teams in the English Premiership or just international soccer clubs are just in right now, where major international corporations really are the owners of these teams.
Should we just get out? Like, this is miserable. Why don't we just sell them? We can all like walk away from the team. He told me, and then he said, and then the roller coaster would be up again and things would be good. And like, oh, this is great. He said, but it was always like these extreme highs and lows. And he told me that he started to think, even back in the 90s, like, it would be just great if we could all get away from this thing. It was, the way he described it was almost, I know this will sound whatever, but it was like a toxic asset that was really driving the family apart and against each other. And that, people had told me for a long time, that Jerry Buss was like the glue, trying to hold this family together, trying to hold his siblings together, or his children together, and amongst so much fighting and division and jealousy and whatnot. The Hulu series that Jeanie and Linda Rambis co-executive produced really gets into a lot of the specific details in all these chapters throughout the years. And Johnny, when he said, look, with all the money that everybody got, you'd think that we could be happy, we can come together and we could celebrate. But obviously that's not going to happen, and there's so much bitterness and it's hurtful, but it's the end of an era. And he wanted to be hopeful and say that, maybe at some point down the road, they could all be as one. I don't know. I'm not optimistic that that happens, especially given the way things, went down. When Jeanie Buss was telling me about how, being fired and pleading to resign instead and not being given that option and feeling like a crumpled up piece of paper and then, thrown in the trash. There's a lot of bitterness there, and I don't know that any dollar amount's going to make it go away.